Hello everyone and welcome to the Veles Gate podcast. My name is Paimon Veles and this is a show for people who like to think deeply, or at least that's what I like to believe. After all, if you're curious about things like the holographic nature of reality, about the idea that the world around you might not even be real, then you probably have more brain power than a chicken. It's great to have you here among people who see more than just the surface of reality. Today, we're diving into a fascinating topic, the CIA's Declassified report on the idea that we live in a holographic universe. This report was officially declassified on September 10th, 2003, thanks to the Freedom of Information Act in the US. If you're wondering how that works, as far as I understand it, anyone interested in certain topics can submit a request, and if it passes review, documents may be released, unless, of course, they involve serious national security secrets. Naturally, the Americans guard their secrets fiercely. They act like the entire world is just waiting to attack them, which is frankly a bit ridiculous. But hey, if you live by the motto, fake it till you make it, I guess you have to keep up appearances. Now, before we really get into it, I want to explain how I approached this report. I spent a lot of time analyzing it. Whenever I quote directly, I'll clearly say that it's a quote. Otherwise, I'll give you a condensed version of the important points without wasting time or rambling. The full original report is available on the CIA website, and no, this isn't some shady website. It's the real, official CIA report, originally from the Army's department, stored in their public archives. They actually have a searchable library if you know where to look. What's funny is that the CIA doesn't make a big announcement when they release something huge like this. They're not out there saying, "Hey world, guess what? Reality isn't real and everything is just a projection of consciousness." No, they just quietly upload a PDF somewhere on page 500 or 600 of their archives, and if someone stumbles across it, well, good for them. Personally, I only discovered this document some time ago, even though it's been declassified for over 20 years. Over time, I've collected and printed several of these declassified reports, because earlier I was already digging into related topics like remote viewing. And let me tell you, once you start looking into it, you find that there's a whole collection of declassified material from the 1970s, 80s, and early 90s. The US government and intelligence agencies were seriously working on weaponizing the human mind. Thought holograms, remote viewing, astral projection, you name it. They had teams of scientists and collaborated with major research institutions to explore all of it scientifically, not just in some mystical, spooky way. Because let's be honest, when you tell people, "Hey, we live in a hologram," most think you're crazy. But just because something sounds weird doesn't mean it's not true. And honestly, how much proof do we need before we finally accept it? I believe most of you listening to this show already get it. Personally, I would stake my head and the thickest part of it on this. We live in a hologram. Life is just a dream. Death doesn't exist. And we are here to experience emotions and feed that experience into a higher form of consciousness. It's mind-blowing. And today we're going to break it down carefully. I've got the printed CIA report right here in my hands. It's dense, 27 pages long. My own condensed notes, prepared for you take up about 18 pages. I've done my best to stay absolutely faithful to the material. So, let's dive in. Before we get into the deep analysis of the CIA report, there's something we need to understand first. The role of the two hemispheres of the human brain is crucial. Here's the quick breakdown. The right hemisphere of the brain is creative. It's responsible for abstract thinking, imagination, artistic abilities. Basically, it sees the world outside the box. It accepts things uncritically, with openness and curiosity. Meanwhile, the left hemisphere is logical, analytical, structured. It processes information rationally, organizes details, and looks for solid, tangible proof. And here's the catch. About 90% of people primarily perceive reality through the left hemisphere. It's how we're trained. The education system drills us into relying only on what we can touch, measure, verify, and dismisses anything abstract as fantasy. In a way that's necessary. Without the left hemisphere structure, we'd all be living in a cloud of chaotic thoughts, barely able to function in society. But, and it's a big but, if we want to tap into higher states of consciousness, access parallel dimensions, or understand the holographic nature of reality, we must awaken the right hemisphere and synchronize it with the left. And that's exactly what the gateway process trains people to do. Important figures behind the research. There are a few key people you need to know about because their work forms the backbone of this entire CIA study. First, Isaac Bentov. Isaac Bentov was a Czech-born scientist, inventor, and mystic who lived from 1923 to 1979. He moved to the United States and had an impressive career. He invented medical devices, including an important catheter system still used today, and was a pioneer in biomedical engineering, helping develop technologies like ultrasound and EEG machines. But beyond that, he was one of the first scientists to deeply study human consciousness. Bentov proposed a holographic model of reality, where everything, including matter, is made of frequencies and vibrations. In his view, nothing is fixed, and our senses simply perceive differences in energy fields. He believed that different states of consciousness could give us access to parallel worlds, and that the soul itself is an information field that accumulates experiences during life. This wasn't just some random guy making wild claims. Isaac Bentov was a serious figure in the scientific community, and his ideas had a huge impact. Next, Niels Bohr. You might recognize the name. He's one of the most famous physicists of all time. Niels Bohr won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1922, and he was instrumental in shaping quantum theory and our understanding of atomic structure. His work laid the foundation for modern physics. And, as we'll see later, the gateway process heavily leans on quantum mechanics to explain consciousness. Finally, the Monroe Institute, founded by Robert Monroe in the early 1970s. The Monroe Institute became a center for studying out-of-body experiences, OBE, and expanded states of consciousness. Monroe was originally a successful figure in the American radio and television industry, but after an intense personal experience where he spontaneously left his body during sleep, he became obsessed with exploring and understanding the phenomenon. He invested his wealth into founding the institute and hired scientists, biologists, and physicists to study consciousness seriously with laboratory conditions, not just mystical speculation. The Monroe Institute developed a powerful method called hemispheric synchronization, or hemisync, which is at the heart of the gateway process. Here's how it works. They play specific audio recordings through headphones with different frequencies in each ear. This causes the brain to tune itself, matching its electrical rhythms to the input sounds. Over time, the brain waves of both hemispheres synchronize, allowing a person to reach deep meditative states much faster than through traditional methods. It might sound like science fiction, but to the CIA and US Army, it was hard science. All of this, the brain research, Isaac Bentoff's models, Niels Bohr's quantum theories, and Bob Monroe's hemisync techniques, form the foundation of the report we're about to dive into. So, let's finally talk about the techniques discussed in the Gateway Report. As I said before, the whole process of getting out of standard physical consciousness starts by working with brainwave manipulation. They used several different methods to achieve this: hypnosis, transcendental meditation, biofeedback, and yeah, I know what you're thinking. Man, the CIA had some seriously cool projects going on. You're absolutely right. First, hypnosis. Hypnosis is a technique that allows direct access to parts of the brain we don't usually control consciously, like the sensory motor cortex, pleasure centers, and lower emotional centers. Normally, the left hemisphere of the brain is like the manager. It analyzes, questions, doubts, and logically processes everything that comes from the outside world. Once the left brain analyzes information, it passes it along to the right hemisphere, which is much more open, creative, non-linear, and most importantly, non-critical. Here's the key. Research shows that the right brain simply accepts whatever the left brain passes to it. It doesn't argue, it doesn't filter, it just accepts. This is a huge discovery, and to prove it, they ran a few fascinating experiments. First, under hypnosis, they convinced the man that he couldn't feel his leg, and when they woke him up, sure enough, he couldn't feel his leg at all. Then they hypnotized him again and told him he could feel his leg again, and just like that, sensation returned. Another experiment. They hypnotized the man and persuaded him to feel extremely happy. When he woke up, he was literally bouncing with joy, smiling uncontrollably. One more, they hypnotized a participant to expand his memory capacity. After the session, he showed a noticeable improvement in memory and recall. This proves that by tapping into the right hemisphere through hypnosis, you can unlock memory, creativity, and even physical sensations. In short, hypnosis switches off the logical editor in the brain and allows access to deeper hidden capacities. That's why in the gateway process, hypnosis is considered an accelerator, especially for beginners. And by the way, I've got my own personal experiences with hypnosis, so sometime soon I'll definitely do a full episode on it. Next up, transcendental meditation, or TM. Now, transcendental meditation works differently from hypnosis. Instead of bypassing the logical mind, it intensely focuses on channeling energy up and down the spine. Over time, this energy flow produces acoustic waves inside the lower parts of the brain, and those waves spread out, affecting the entire cerebral cortex, especially the right hemisphere. The result? A deep state of altered consciousness. And here's something fascinating. Those acoustic waves are linked to changes in heart rhythm, and even to vibrations inside the fluid chambers of the brain. In other words, when you meditate deeply enough, your brain and your body literally start vibrating differently. Honestly, how crazy is it that the CIA measured this scientifically? Now, here's the catch. Achieving this state through traditional transcendental meditation takes time. According to the report, it can take up to 5 years of regular practice to fully master it. And for the CIA, that was just way too slow. That's why they started looking into ways to speed it up using technology like audio brainwave entrainment. The third method they discuss is biofeedback. Biofeedback is different again. Unlike hypnosis or meditation, which quiet the left brain, biofeedback actively uses it. In biofeedback, you focus on a desired outcome, like healing a leg injury, while being connected to machines that measure physiological changes. Here's one experiment they ran. A participant focused all his attention on his left leg, visualizing blood flowing there to heal it. Using digital thermometers, scientists measured that blood circulation increased in that leg. Over time, using mental memory and focus, he could recreate that effect faster and faster. In fact, biofeedback has been shown to speed up healing, reduce pain, even slow the growth of certain small tumors. Quick note, I'm not saying you should ditch your doctor and just think yourself healthy. That's not what this is about. But the mind definitely has a lot more power over the body than we realize. And again, these effects were measured in controlled lab conditions, real science, not guesswork. Alright, now we're getting into the real core of the gateway experience, the actual process of brainwave synchronization and stepping beyond physical reality. This is where it all starts coming together. So first, let's define what the CIA calls the gateway experience. This next part is a direct quote from the report. The gateway experience is a training system designed to enhance strength, focus, and consistency of brainwave output between the left and right hemispheres. The goal is to influence consciousness and allow the mind to move beyond the physical body, escaping the normal limitations of time and space. Participants then gain access to levels of intuitive knowledge offered by the universe. There you go. In short, the gateway experience trains you to step out of your physical body and travel into higher levels of reality using science, not superstition. One of the most important elements of the gateway process is hemispheric synchronization, often called hemisync. This happens when the brainwaves from the left and right hemispheres start matching in both amplitude, height, and frequency, speed. When this happens, the brain moves into a powerful, altered state of consciousness where time and space feel different. Intuition dramatically increases. Out-of-body experiences become possible, and this synchronization isn't random. They measured it scientifically using EEG, electroencephalogram machines, those funny-looking caps with wires that record brainwaves. So, how do you synchronize the brain? Through something called frequency following response FFR. The idea is simple but genius. If the brain hears a sound at a certain frequency for long enough, it naturally starts to match that frequency. So for example, if you're fully awake but start hearing sounds tuned to theta waves, the brain waves associated with sleep or deep meditation, after a while, your brain waves will slow down and enter that deep state. It's almost automatic, unless you consciously resist it. Now, here's a clever trick they use. Some brainwave frequencies, like 7 Hz, 4 Hz, are too low for the human ear to hear. So they use a technique called binaural beats. It works like this. One ear hears a sound at, say, 100 Hz. The other ear hears a sound at 107 Hz. Your brain subtracts the two and hears the difference, 7 Hz. And boom, your brain starts tuning itself to 7 Hz without you even realizing it. Now it gets really weird. As the brain falls into synchronization with these deep frequencies, the entire human body starts resonating. Heart rhythms slow down, brain fluid begins to pulse gently. The whole body vibrates together at a level almost impossible to detect consciously, but very real. The CIA's measurements showed that the brain actually tilts back and forth inside the skull. Tiny movements, about 0.005 to 0.10 millimeters, synced with these frequencies. That's how sensitive our bodies are to energy fields. And here's the kicker. Once this synchronization is achieved, the body's natural resonance frequency falls into the range of 6.8 to 7.5 Hz, which exactly matches the Earth's own frequency, the Schumann resonance. When your body and brain resonate at the same frequency as the Earth itself, you become what they call a coherent oscillator, meaning you're not just in your body anymore, you're synced up with the entire Earth's energy field. In that state, you can consciously draw energy from the Earth. This isn't just spiritual mumbo-jumbo. The CIA described it in hard scientific terms. They explained that once a person reaches this resonance, their energy field strengthens. Their heart, brain, nervous system, and even their bones vibrate in perfect harmony. They can now begin to expand their own energy field consciously. And when that happens, they become capable of stepping beyond time and space, absorbing energy from the Earth. Once a person's body is fully synchronized with the Earth's frequency, something incredible happens. They become what the CIA report calls a coherent oscillator. In simple terms, you're now vibrating in perfect harmony with the Earth's energy field. And because of that, you can consciously start drawing energy from it, absorbing it, growing stronger, expanding your personal energy field. It's a bit like becoming your own mini power station. You're not just a biological machine anymore. You're a dynamic energy being, pulling in pure life force from the Earth itself. Here's where it gets even crazier. Once several people achieve this synchronized state, they can connect their energy fields together. The CIA calls this the formation of a consciousness network. Imagine that, a group of humans, each vibrating perfectly with the Earth, linking their energy fields like nodes in a cosmic internet. In this state, telepathic communication becomes easier. Sharing emotions, thoughts, or even knowledge across vast distances could theoretically happen instantly. And it's not science fiction. The CIA genuinely studied and documented this. Now, before moving further, the report emphasizes something huge. Matter and energy are not two different things. Everything in the universe, including you, me, and this podcast, is made of oscillating energy fields. Solid matter, as we think of it, does not exist the way we perceive it. Everything is frequency. Everything is vibration. Everything is energy, including your own consciousness. In fact, your consciousness is just a very complex, beautifully organized field of energy. constantly interacting with other fields around it. Now, how does the universe store information? Through holograms. A hologram is created when energy patterns project into a three-dimensional space, storing enormous amounts of data in every tiny part. And here's something mind-blowing about holograms. If you cut a hologram into pieces, each piece still contains the entire image, just at a smaller scale. This mirrors the structure of reality itself. You, as an individual human, contain within you the pattern of the entire universe, a miniature but complete version of the whole, the matrix of consciousness. And that brings us to another key idea from the report. The universe is composed of interacting energy fields, some moving, some still, forming one gigantic, unimaginably complex hologram. According to physicists like David Bohm and neuroscientists like Carl Pribram, your mind is also a hologram. It's constantly tuning into the greater cosmic hologram, exchanging energy, receiving information, and projecting meaning onto what you perceive as reality. You're not just observing the world, you are co-creating it. Your brain scans incoming energy patterns, compares them with memories stored in your personal hologram, and translates the differences into what you experience as the physical world. At this point, the report explains something called phase coherence. And no, we're not talking about having a phase, like when your body gets obsessed with crystals for a month. Phase coherence means your brainwaves are perfectly synchronized with the energy patterns of the universe. It's like tuning your mind to the perfect radio station. Suddenly, you stop getting static and you start receiving a clear, pure signal. Here's where it gets crazy. The CIA report says that the way our brain processes reality resembles binary code, the same system computers use. 0 means no, 1 means yes. Your brain constantly scans the energy around you and reduces it to a yes-no format. Is this something I've seen before? Yes or no? Is this familiar? Yes or no? So everything you perceive, sights, sounds, emotions, is filtered through a two-dimensional system of comparisons, known or unknown, same or different, safe or dangerous. Your brain simplifies reality down to binary decisions, because otherwise the full complexity of the universe would overwhelm you instantly. And here's a fascinating point. Even though we live in a three-dimensional world, we actually perceive reality in 2 dimensions. Think about it. Right now, as you look around, your eyes are capturing flat images. You only know that objects have depth because your brain interprets them that way. If you look at a phone lying on your desk, you see the front face clearly, but you don't actually see the sides, back, and bottom all at once. Your mind fills in the 3rd dimension based on memory and logic, not direct perception. Now, in expanded states of consciousness, things change. In deep meditation, during astral projection, or in out-of-body experiences, the right hemisphere of the brain takes the lead. It stops reducing everything to yes, no, same, different. It perceives directly, without filtering. The mind stops scanning and analyzing and starts absorbing information holistically. Like seeing the universe not as a collection of separate things, but as one unified field. That's what stepping beyond the matrix feels like. Quick summary. So far, the brain can synchronize itself with the Earth's energy field. Reality is not solid, it's structured holographic energy. Our mind processes reality like binary code. Yes, no, familiar, unfamiliar. In an expanded state, we step beyond that binary and perceive the full holographic field. At this stage, the Gateway Report starts redefining what time and space actually are. According to the physics cited, time is simply energy in motion. It's a measurement of change. Without change, there is no time. Energy needs boundaries, some kind of frame in order to move. And once it moves within that frame, time exists. In other words, no structure, no movement, no time. So what about infinity? Infinity, by definition, is limitless. It has no edges, no beginning, no end, no frame to move within. And if it can't move anywhere, because there's nowhere outside itself to go, it remains at absolute rest. Infinity doesn't experience time, it doesn't move, because there's nothing beyond it to move toward. It just is. And the report emphasizes something truly powerful, because time and space are contained within infinity. Infinity itself is untouched by either. Now we arrive at one of the heaviest ideas in the entire document, the absolute. The CIA report defines the absolute like this. It is pure, undifferentiated consciousness. It exists beyond time, beyond space, beyond motion. It is infinite stillness, a state of pure being. And interestingly, it is not part of any hologram. It is not created. It simply is. The Absolute generates and perceives all the holograms that form the universe, but remains untouched by them. You could call it God, the Source, the Great Mind, whatever fits your belief system. But in the report, they stick to calling it simply the Absolute. So, where does human consciousness fit into this? According to the Gateway model, your consciousness is a small, organized piece of this Absolute. Through experience, it gathers information, emotions, memories, and sensations. After death, your consciousness returns to the Absolute, carrying everything it learned. And guess what? It doesn't lose its identity. The report states, the return of consciousness to the Absolute does not mean its extinction. Rather, individual consciousness maintains its identity by merging with infinity while retaining all its accumulated experiences. Meaning, death is not an end, it's a return home. You don't disappear. You merge with the infinite mind, enriched by everything you've lived through. But before you fully merge back into the Absolute, your consciousness can travel through parallel worlds, different dimensions, with different laws of physics, different realities. Through gateway training, syncing with the Earth's frequency, expanding your energy field, stepping beyond time and space, a trained mind can move freely across these dimensions. No one knows exactly how many dimensions exist, but the theory says as long as you remain separate from the Absolute, you can keep traveling through different worlds. And every experience, every emotional journey is part of what you eventually bring back into the infinite field of consciousness. The Gateway Report explains that the structure of the universe itself, the way energy flows through existence, looks like a torus. What's a torus exactly? Imagine a donut, but more dynamic. A constantly moving, breathing, twisting donut of energy. Or another way, picture an apple cut in half. The curved sides, the central channel, that's a rough idea of the torus shape. Energy in a torus flows outward from the center, spirals around, and then funnels back inward through the center again, creating an endless cycle of expansion and contraction. There's no beginning, there's no end, just infinite flow. According to the CIA's analysis, the entire universe Everything we can see and everything beyond follows this toroidal flow. Energy flows outward, forms galaxies, and matter spirals across space and eventually collapses back into itself. And the most mind-blowing part, smaller structures reflect larger ones, meaning, just like a hologram, every small piece contains the pattern of the whole. Galaxies mirror the universe, solar systems mirror galaxies, atoms mirror solar systems, and even your own energy field mirrors the shape of the universe itself. This brings us to an ancient concept that science is now catching up to: the cosmic egg. Ancient cultures around the world describe the universe as a giant egg, a container of all life, constantly cycling and renewing itself. The torus structure that the CIA describes matches this exactly. The universe isn't just expanding infinitely outward, as scientists once thought. Instead, galaxies are moving outward across the curved surface of the torus, then looping back inward toward the core like a cosmic circulation system. Expansion and contraction, birth and death, creation and reabsorption, a perfect infinite cycle. The report makes a fascinating connection to the Ouroboros, the ancient symbol of a snake eating its own tail. You've probably seen it before, a serpent curled into a circle, biting itself. It's one of the oldest symbols in human history, and it represents exactly what the torus shows us: eternal cycles, unity of beginning and end, infinite renewal. Ancient mystics somehow knew the same truths modern science is just now rediscovering. Now, where are we? Our galaxy, our solar system on this cosmic torus. According to observations cited in the Gateway Report, our part of the universe is currently riding along the top half of the torus, moving outward, but approaching the point where matter will soon begin falling inward, toward the core again. In simple terms, we're about to reach the turning point, a moment of transition from expansion back toward the Great Return. In the final sections of the report, the CIA lays out the ultimate conclusion. Consciousness is the organizing and sustaining principle of the universe. Everything, matter, energy, time, space, only exists because consciousness creates it and holds it together. Consciousness is not a byproduct of the brain. The brain is a tool used by consciousness that flips everything mainstream science tells us on its head. Out of all the techniques they tested, hypnosis, meditation, biofeedback, out-of-body experiences, OBE, gave the strongest, clearest, and most powerful results. When a person experiences an OBE, they leave the restrictions of physical space-time. Their consciousness can travel freely through the matrix of energy. They can visit other dimensions, access intuitive knowledge, and interact with the greater holographic universe. And importantly, the longer and more frequently a person practices stepping outside their body, the more clarity and stability they achieve. So it's a trainable skill. The more you do it, the more vivid and powerful your experiences become. The report closes with a powerful insight. Consciousness is eternal. Death is not an end. It's a return. All your experiences, emotions, memories, they don't disappear. They merge back into the absolute. You, as an individual consciousness, continue to exist inside the infinite mind. Now, to finish off, let's talk about some rumors, because they're too wild to ignore. There are whispers from people connected to intelligence circles that even today, groups like the CIA and NSA run secret programs training psychonauts. These aren't ordinary operatives. They're people trained to fully master the gateway process, enter deep sensory deprivation chambers, use specialized brain devices and psychedelics, expand their consciousness into parallel dimensions, make contact with non-human intelligences. According to some leaks, these psychonauts are allegedly engaged in interdimensional communication, even negotiating with entities from other realities. Sounds like Star Trek or Stargate SG-1 levels of sci-fi, right? And yet, after seeing how serious the original CIA report was, it doesn't seem totally crazy anymore. And that brings us to the most important message of today's episode. We live in the Matrix. Death does not exist. Life is a dream, and consciousness is eternal. We are here on Earth not to obey rules blindly, but to experience emotions, learn, grow, and elevate consciousness. Forget the fear, the limitations, the control systems. Live according to your heart. Follow your intuition. Pursue experiences that make you feel alive. That's why you're here. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's broadcast. I'm Paimon Veles, and you've been listening to the Veles Gate podcast. Today, we explored the CIA's declassified study of the holographic universe and our true nature as infinite consciousness. Live freely, think deeply, and trust your own inner wisdom. Best wishes to all of you. Take care and see you soon. Bye.